This right here is a state-of-the-art prison. It was constructed in the middle of nowhere to ensure that no gang members could escape, have any access to the outside world, or even worse, maintain any form of communication with their former gangs. There can be absolutely no prison breaks, no form of corruption or bribery, and everybody will see out their sentences. In this video, we will share with you some of the amazing footage of El Salvador's all-new MegaPrison. Built from July 2022 to January 2023 amidst a large-scale gang crackdown and finally opened in February 2023, this is one of the biggest prisons in the world. It is located in El Salvador and was opened by President Nayib Bukele. The prison received its first 2,000 prisoners in the same month, but it would interest you to note that this mega prison that was opened was designed to hold a lot more than that. We are talking about a full capacity of 40,000 inmates in a single area. President Nayib Bukele definitely pulled out all the stops on this one. If you're unsure as to why the president would take such extreme measures to lock away criminals and gang members, then we will give you a brief rundown. President Nayib Bukele has essentially been waging a one-man war on gangs for the last 5 or 6 years. Ever since he became the president, he declared that dismantling the gang culture in El Salvador is his top priority.
The fight against corruption, I think, is one of the pillars that made us won the election.
El Salvador has always been known for violent crime. This history of gang violence might in fact be due to the troubled political history of the country. One must recognize the determination and hard work that President Bukele has put into this. We mean breaking up something as deep-rooted as gang culture is generally not an easy thing to do. Once this culture has already been established, it can only take somebody with a very firm hand to do something about it. When taking on such a task, you would also need to be strategic. Making thousands of arrests does not help much in the long run because all that will be achieved is having thousands of people locked up until you realize you have nowhere else to keep them. Aside from an overcrowded prison, it is also possible that you only have moved the gang problem from one part of the society to another. You see a lot of prisons eventually get corrupted and end up being run by the gangs themselves. These criminals organize and put in place structures that enable them to carry out their illegal businesses like they are free men. So the problem is far from being solved, and it has maybe gotten worse. Thankfully, the president of El Salvador understands this and has taken much better steps in his fight against gang culture. What the mega prison in El Salvador is aiming to achieve is amazing. It just might be what the country needs to get the economy and society going in the right direction. Let us talk about El Salvador for a moment. Located in Central America, El Salvador sits between North and South America. She has land borders with Honduras to the north and East Guatemala to the northwest. Although she has an extreme amount of Pacific Ocean coastline to the south, she is still the only Central American country with no Caribbean coast. Unfortunately, the country has been greatly offset by high oil prices, natural disasters, and even a decline in the number of manufacturing plants. This is probably why El Salvador cannot afford to pay off its external debt. Sadly, the economy is not the only concern of its government. El Salvador has long been known as one of the most violent countries in the world. Even back in the 90s, America deported thousands of criminal gang members back to El Salvador. Since then, the country has been plagued by turf wars. Then came the very modern President Nayib Bukele, who made sure El Salvador the first country in the world to accept Bitcoin as a legal tender. At the age of 41, he is one of the youngest presidents in the world. Many love and respect all he has tried to do for El Salvador, especially when it comes to national security. Sometime in March 2022, President Bukele declared a state of emergency in response to one of the most violent gang killings in recent times. More than 60 persons reportedly lost their lives on that violent day. Of course, what followed was mass arrests and declarations of even tougher punishment for gang members. Using the hashtag war on gangs, the president took to social media and charged parents to show the video of these arrests to their teenage children and warn them that choosing the gang life would only lead to prison or death. Since then, more than 20,000 have been arrested in this highly publicized campaign by the government. There has also been a drastic increase in the sentences for gang activity. Adults can now get up to 45 years, while children stand a high chance of serving a 10-year sentence. Every now and then, the United States would condemn these actions as a little bit too dictatorial, but of course the El Salvadoran government has no intention of considering these American views.
Y no me importa lo que digan los organismos internacionales, que vengan a proteger a nuestra gente, que vengan a llevarse a sus pandilleros.
This footage was taken from a formal tour of the MegaPrison facility before it was opened. As President Bukele arrived at the facility, he was taken through the main entrance and into the collection area. This area is where all prisoners are first taken to be processed. As the governor of the prison takes him around, he explains in detail the state of all the facilities that have been put in place to make the prison so state-of-the-art, and how it is going to be very different from the other prisons in El Salvador. After going through the tour of the MegaPrison, it is very clear that every aspect of the way it was designed was done carefully. First, let us talk about the location of the prison. One problem that a lot of prisons face is how easy it is for inmates to bring things into the prisons. From cell phones to computers, sound systems, and even prostitutes. Literally anything they wanted could be smuggled in. To eliminate this problem, the new MegaPrison in El Salvador was built differently. Instead of the old system where prisoners are usually located close to residential areas or were made even converted into a prison from an old school building, El Salvador has done something more outstanding. This huge piece of land in the middle of nowhere was purchased for the sole purpose of building this state-of-the-art facility. Of course, the reason for this is now that it will be 1,000 times more difficult for any of the gangs to have contact with anybody inside the prison. But that's not all. In terms of a prison break, it is nearly impossible. Nobody can just turn up to try and break somebody out of this MegaPrison. The first reason is its remote location, and the second is that the guards would be able to spot anyone approaching the prison long before they arrived. Not only is the location remote, but there's also nothing around the prison for miles. Intruders would definitely be spotted, but solely depending on the remote location of the prison is not a risk these guys were willing to take. So other facilities were placed in terms of security. These facilities include really thick and reinforced concrete walls, electric fencing, and lookout guards. But we will get to that in a bit. For now, let's look at the cell system of the MegaPrison. Taking a good look at the cells themselves, you would realize that this prison was constructed solely for the mass holding of prisoners. Each cell was designed to hold lots of prisoners in quadruple tier bunks located very close to each other. Each cell has 100 bunks, which means that there is going to be an enormous amount of prisoners held in the individual cells. Unfortunately for the prisoners, there are no mattresses and only 2 wash facilities for 100 people to share. You see these concrete squares at the front, basically the baths that have been set up for them. They also don't have access to the taps, as the guards outside the cells can only control the water centrally. As inhumane as that sounds, it is understandable. We have heard of so many cases where prisoners go to the toilets, turn on the taps, and flood the area just so they can use the water to their advantage or to hurt others. So you've got about 100 prisoners sharing 2 toilets and 2 washing areas. You could say that the facilities are fairly basic for the inmates. The idea of these cells is to keep the prisoners in them for most of the time. This makes it easy for the guards to defend the prison and make it difficult for the prisoners to start a large and uncontrollable riot. In cases where prisoners need solitary confinement, let's say one of the prisoners does something wrong, or maybe this big bad gang leader arrives at the prison, the MegaPrison has a grim and specially designed solitary confinement wing. This solitary confinement wing is basically a large concrete structure meant to isolate dangerous prisoners. The concrete walls mean that it's going to be relatively cold most of the time. The cells have a concrete bunk and then a wash area. Since there is no electricity in the cells, it would be pitch black once the door is closed, like you couldn't even see your hands in front of you kind of dark. This is some hardcore solitary confinement. There is nothing to do and nobody to talk to until somebody comes and unlocks the door. There is a sliding section on the front of the metal door. That way, the prison guards can look in. There is also a pull-down flap through which meals can be passed through for the prisoner. This flap also enables the guard to handcuff the prisoner before the door is open for him to leave the solitary confinement wing. Here we have the governor of the prison showing President Bukele the IT systems that have been installed. There is CCTV and a lot of surveillance equipment to help ensure security and to monitor what the prisoners are doing at all times. Just like the original plan is to dismantle the gang culture on the outside, that same concept seems to be at play in the MegaPrison. These guys are making sure that these prisoners don't have any opportunity to continue their gang discussions and activities even inside the prison. There are no mobile phones or access to the internet, so this makes the new MegaPrison stand out from the other prisons in El Salvador. You see, in some of the old prisons, you would find that there are some inmates who are running the prison. They had access to cell phones or computers. Some were being paid up to $120 per month. That is enough money to carry out whatever non-productive plans they may have. We've established that the prisoners do not have access to do anything, but one thing they are allowed to do is work. Yes, these prisoners have been given the opportunity to work in the prisons, as there is an inbuilt multi-purpose work area. Here, the prisoners are given specific jobs and tools to carry out specific tasks. While this might be a way to repay some of their debt to society, it is also the only form of entertainment that they will have within the prison. Going back to the security aspect of the MegaPrison, we have to talk about the guards. These inmates would most likely be hardcore gang members who have been brought up in gang culture, so there is a possibility that there would be a lot of violence. As such, the guards have been given a lot of protective equipment. The way they are dressed basically appears to be riot control gear. They have helmets, guns, riot shields, and every other protective equipment, so they seem prepared for any violent situation. All of the equipment in the MegaPrison is brand new. All of the latest protective equipment has already been provided, so the long line of guards is expected to be fully dressed in their protective gear at all times. It also looks like these guards have been fully trained, some may have even had previous army training. These prison guards also have undergone intense training drills on how to handle a riot. In this demonstration for President Bukele, the guards are coming in with guns loaded and ready to go. This appears to be really aggressive in terms of the approach, but it may also be necessary. They have their riot gear on. Then they go to their predetermined areas within the prison. We mentioned earlier that up to 100 people are in a cell, so if a riot does break out, each one of these teams deployed outside the cell would have to break up that riot. Imagine 100 gang members decided to start a riot. It will be fairly intimidating and may even be very difficult to break up. So maybe all these weapons and machine guns are not so over the top after all. The good news is that the MegaPrison was designed in a way that will help the prison guards handle the riots. That is the whole reason for the cells in the first place. As these prison guards line up outside of the cells, the goal is to break up the riot going on within that cell. With each cell being locked for most of the time, the riot would easily be contained to individual cells, and therefore it won't be the whole prison that's rioting. Aside from the prison guards located on the ground, other prison guards will be positioned at the top of the prison along the gangways. When you really think about it, this is actually a lot of work that requires strength and diligence. So it is important that these guards relax or take time off for themselves. Now, one complaint that has been historically consistent in the prison service is how the guards never really have any self-care facilities. But as you are about to see, this is not the case with the new MegaPrison. There are conducive dormitories where all of the guards will be sleeping. Everyone is expected to be sleeping in this mass area, quite similar to what you would see in the army. There are individual washing facilities, private shower cubicles, and even private lockers where everybody can store all of their equipment and personal items. There are also some entertainment facilities for the guards, like table tennis. And there's also access to a full gym with brand new exercise equipment. Of course, this is only for the guards, as the prisoners would have no access to these facilities. All these features are great, but there is one thing that a prison absolutely needs, and that is an efficient external security system. It is crucial that nobody is able to break in or out of the facility, and on this, what the El Salvador MegaPrison has done is very commendable. The grounds outside the prison have been laid with gravel. This ensures that if any inmates get outside, it will set off the sound action system. The prison also has 19 towers that will be manned at all times on the outside. These raised areas make it easy to spot anyone in an unauthorized area. In addition to that, there are electrified chain fences with 15,000 volts of electricity, so if an inmate does manage to elude the guards on the tower, they would not be able to get away. The main walls around the facility are reinforced such that they can withstand any sort of bomb attack. They are also 11 meters high, which makes it very difficult to scale. In addition to the actual security of the building itself, there are army patrols outside of the prison. This is implemented to ensure that the whole area outside the prison is being patrolled constantly. This MegaPrison has already been set up in a remote location in the middle of nowhere, so even in the unlikely event that an inmate gets out, the army can then target such a person. So there would be around 600 soldiers and around 250 members of the National Civil Police on rotation to protect the area all around the prison. So that is the El Salvador MegaPrison, carefully designed to make it very difficult for anyone inside to escape. And it is truly magnificent. A sound action system on the grounds outside, a thick and very concrete wall that is almost impossible to scale, and if by chance that happens, the electrified fence at the top is right there. Even before that, getting past the 19 towers that have been built all around the complex is not an easy feat to achieve, and before that, one would have to get past all the extensive CCTV and surveillance equipment on the inside. In fact, in what universe would an inmate be able to leave his cell in the first place? The cells are well guarded, so no one would not even be able to get past the guards on the inside, let alone worry about surviving on the outside. It is remarkable. Everything seems well thought out and efficient. Stay away from crime because you definitely would not want to find yourself in El Salvador's new mega prison.